Hi everybody, we're going to be doing some math art today. We're going to be dealing with some optical illusions. And in case you weren't really familiar with what they are, let me remind you. Here's an example of one right here. You might notice that the rings might move. They might look like they're pointing up to the left, and then they might flip and look like they're pointing down to the right. So that is an example of an optical illusion. We have this one that's right here. When you look at these two flowers, does it look like the center is bigger here and smaller here? Do they look the same? Optical illusion. Then we have over here, we have the Art Op cube here. It might look a little strange here in the center. So we're going to be using just paper and basic drawing supplies, and we're going to be doing an Op Art drawing here using quadrilaterals. So those would be your rectangles, squares, trapezoids, rhombi, parallelograms, all that kind of great stuff. We're also going to be looking at parallel lines and some intersecting lines. So to get started, you're going to need a piece of paper. I have this really old sketchbook and a sketch pad, and I'm going to just pull out a sheet of paper here. It's even a little yellow, it's so old. I'm going to need a pencil. Now I'm using a pen simply so you can see the lines that I'm drawing. You will need a ruler or some sort of a straight edge. So you could use an old envelope or you could use a folder to draw your straight lines. And then you will want something to color with, whether it's a crayon or a marker, or you could just use your pencil. That works too. So to get started, the first thing that you're going to need to do is we are going to be measuring some marks and making marks. So when I look at my ruler here, when you see the long lines, those are your inch increments, and the long line in the center between the two of them, that is a ½ inch. You need to know that. We are making ½ inch marks, or rather we're making marks every ½ inch. So if you don't have a ruler, that's fine. You can just use your finger as a guide to measure, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So I'm coming along here and I am making a little mark, and it's going in the same direction as the lines on the ruler. All right, so all the way across the paper, and then I am going to do the same thing at the top. If you do not have this ruler, like I said, I was going to show you how to do this. Let me just get this knocked out really quick here. So if you don't have a ruler, then you'll just lay your finger down against the edge of the page and make a mark. Move over so that the line is right next to your finger and make your mark. And you will continue along like this, all the way across the top and the bottom of your paper. Try and make sure that you're making your lines at the same spot, otherwise this might be a little crooked. All right, the next thing you're going to do once you have your marks on there is you're going to be taking your ruler and lining up your top and your bottom mark, and with your pencil you're going to be drawing a line, okay, all the way through. So if you don't have a ruler, a folder works just as well. If you have to do something that is smaller and it's not the length of the paper, so if I use an envelope here, it's not quite long enough, so then you have to be sort of eyeballing it. So I'm looking here, it seems like it lines up, so I'm going to make my mark halfway down, and then I move my paper down like this. So I'm going to pause the video at this time so that I can finish my lines, and then I will be right back. And we're back. So I have all of my parallel lines on my paper, and now I'm going to start to draw some of these quadrilaterals. So I'm going to use I'm using an envelope here instead of the ruler, simply to show you that an envelope does work just fine. And I'm going to start to draw my shapes. So I'm going to start with a trapezoid. And now that I said that, I hope I mentioned the trapezoid earlier in the video. If I did not, my apologies. Alright, so there's my trapezoid. I'm going to go on and draw something else. I'm going to pause the video. You don't need to watch me draw these shapes because you can draw them on your own. So I'll be right back. And we're back. So now I have my quadrilaterals drawn and I can move on to the coloring part. So I'm going to take my marker here and I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to start here in the first column, if you will, the first row, the first column, and I'm going to use my marker, and it comes all the way down, which is great, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to continue to use my ruler to make these straight lines. It actually makes coloring a whole lot easier. If you don't have a marker, remember that you can just color with a pencil, crayons, colored pencils, whatever you have. I'm going to leave the second column empty, leave that white, and I'm going to color the third column. So as I come down this row, or this column, I'm going to stop when I intersect with my shape, which is right here. And then I'm going to pick up under it, down here. And right around it, I'm going to have to come in by hand and do that. And now I will do the rest of my marks. And again, there we go. If you don't want to continue to use the ruler, you don't have to, but I'm telling you, I really think it's easier. And I'm going to leave the next one white or empty, and I'm going to go to the next. Again, I'm going to stop when I get to my shape. If I have to do a little bit by hand, that's fine. And I'm going to do this all the way across my paper, leaving my shapes empty. Don't color those in yet. All right, so we'll be right back. And we're back. So here I have my background done. All of my shapes are still empty. Now I'm going to go back into the shapes and I'm going to color the opposite. So for example, starting down here, this is my white stripe, but a little bit here of my parallelogram is in that white. So I am going to go ahead and color that part of the parallelogram, and only that part for now, my black. Then this should be green, so I'm going to leave that part of the parallelogram white. I'm going to flip-flop, and now this part, which is in the white stripe, becomes green. And you're going to continue to do this inside all of your shapes all the way across your paper until you're left with something that looks like this. So this should be something that is fun for you. I hope you enjoy that, and we'll be talking to you later.